Hey, spooky friends, and welcome to The Three Twisted Sisters, hosted by Britt,
Kay,
and Lexi.
And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about close encounters of the twisted kind. You guessed it, we are talking about aliens.
Yes.
Maybe you guessed it, maybe you didn't. But it's aliens, baby. So we have discussed aliens in the past, but we wanted to do kind of like a little deep dive into aliens in general. So hang in there. What do you guys think? Like, what's the first word that comes to mind when you think of aliens?
Marvel.
cool.
Scary.
Unknown.
Mysterious.
Extraterrestrial.
Advanced.
Area 51. Government conspiracy. Government cover-up. These are not just one words that first
I was
come
going to
my
say.
mind. But these are the words that come into my mind one by one when I think of them. Yeah.
I think I want to be abducted.
And she will tell you how.
Yeah.
You're going to learn today how to be abducted. Not that
Yes.
Lexi's gotten herself abducted yet.
That's my goal for 2023. So
You little
You got to do it like in the
child.
backyard. They're not. It's like a vampire. They're not allowed in, unless they want to like cup of coffee before they head back.
yeah,
Because they
Fair.
make pretty good coffee.
fair enough.
Yeah. So
And even then, I don't know.
They can just pull me out my window.
Jesus Christ.
yeah, but your window has the screen, and then if you have it locked, and it's a
It's never-
tight
no.
fitting over there, like the gate.
You really think
You
that
don't
I
think,
to unlock a window?
literally, you don't think that they can go brrrr and she can just go through an object?
They like levitate me,
yes.
and I'm like, "Wait, Marvel!" And they're like, "Okay." And then they bring a little Marv, and then we're just in our PJs levitating.
Imagine if I'm at
Exactly.
work and you get abducted, and the boys wake up and they're like, "Where is everyone?" That would be horrible.
They have an
You would have to
iPad.
leave a note.
They have an iPad.
You need to leave a note though. That's another thing. You gotta at least let us know. That way I don't like call the cops.
Right.
Sorry about there's a UFO outside my room. There's a large plane making some noise.
Oh, I didn't hear it. You're good.
So we haven't been abducted yet. It's definitely on Lexi's bucket list, but I mean, for me, it's like I love the stars. I love looking at, the stars in the sky and stuff. But anything like involving space, I adore the moon. But anything like if they're like, "Hey, there's a spaceship you can go on and you can go take a ride around the earth." I like the earth, I want to have my feet on the ground and
See, I think it's okay to have a healthy fear and not like, "Oh, I'm so terrified." Like you're a little much, but then the other side of the spectrum, you guys are both like freaks. Because I think, in my personal opinion, because I think it's okay to have a healthy fear because it's unknown. And
Right.
a lot of the abduction stories involve a lot of pain, a lot of fear, and they hurt them.
Not Peter Quills.
I said a lot. A lot of
hey,
abduction
there was
stories.
pain there.
Yeah, there's emotional pain. But I feel like any of the quote legitimate, not Hollywood. Yeah. It's unknown. So it is scary. And when I saw what I think was an alien, that shit's it was like scary because I didn't know what it was, but I was like intrigued and I had to go figure out what it was.
Right.
But
It's like the curiosity. I don't know if it's so much of, for me, like my anxiety or anything about that. Like, I just don't know. But it's also like the thought of space being a vacuum and you can just be like going on forever. And it's, forever and always you're stuck in this vacuum that's dark and cold.
yeah, because what happened to Peter Quill's dad, well, not dad, not the god guy, but like the blue
Yondu?
guy. Yeah, that's fucked up. Let's just lock you out there and then you're dead, floating through space forever.
He sacrificed himself for his son.
Yeah, for his
So-
crew.
It's not the movie that scares me. It's that idea of being like overthrown out of a spaceship and then you're just done.
What if there's parts in the galaxy or the universe where we can breathe and we just don't know because we've never explored it?
Yeah,
Which that would be,
but we don't know. It's unknown.
and you're like, maybe it's like the like there's no gravity, so and there's nothing to like hold on to or like push yourself off of, so you're just like constantly like, but you're not getting anywhere, you know? That freaks me out too.
Yeah.
Feel like you're flying.
Yeah, but you're not moving.
Be
There's
so-
no wind.
Think about
You're just floating there. You're just hovering.
there's got to be space winds. There's no way
there's
not.
no wind in space.
Hmm.
And even at that, and that's like another thing. Maybe I'm just like so dumb, but it doesn't make sense to me because I'm like, how can things, if there's no gravity, if there's no wind, if there's no like air, how do things move? And like there's like the asteroid belt,
Yeah.
just to provide an example, or like a comet going, you know, that kind of thing. Like it has force behind it and it has like that momentum to get it to move, but at the same time, like, how does that
Well,
work?
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is wind in space, but I know there's no wind on the moon.
No, not on the moon.
But is there wind in space?
I think there is.
I think it's all
isn't
just
there
energy.
Isn't there even
Google it,
Okay.
because I know like once you're on a planet, like
it's different because the atmosphere could be different.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What if it's even like never mind.
Say it.
Like outer space creatures that just like can live in
And flow.
mm-hmm.
I bet like we don't even know what's in the ocean. Imagine like if there's like space snakes and they can
Yeah.
like, go through the space.
That's what's like the unknown to me freaks me out. So this says there are solar winds given off by stars, but they mostly affect energy.
Battle
So I was
stars.
right by saying in battle scars that it was like it's energy, that's how they move. They mostly affect energy, not physical items. There is almost no atmosphere of any kind in space. There is nothing to blow around to create a conventional wind such as we would experience on Earth or any other planets that have atmosphere.
So just to get us started, I'm going to talk about the alien species, quote unquote, most associated with abductions or house visits, the Greys. Now, they're also known as Zeta Reticulans, and they appear as, some people say they're tall, most people say that they're shorter than like the average human height. Slender, human-like creatures with slick gray skin and big black eyes. Kind of like your typical run-of-the-mill alien, just not necessarily green. Like I said, these kinds of extraterrestrials are seen in close encounter type scenarios. Now, accounts vary, but in 1891, author Kenneth Follingsby wrote the book Meta, A Tale of the Future, where the main character comes upon small gray humanoid figures with bulbous heads. Now, this was the first, like, almost like a science fiction novel, like the first of its kind. And then about 4 years later, H.G. Wells presented a theory that not only are Greys the evolved version of humans, they will be the future successors to our species, which I thought was interesting because just kind of like talking about, I don't know if you are familiar with different forms of religion. There's one in particular who thinks, who believes that Earth is one of many Earths, and like the God, or the, the maker, whatever you want to call it, has many of these different kinds of planets where there's different levels of development as far as life, but we're all like basic kind of like genetic makeup type thing. Like we're all kind of like free thinking, and we have, appendages and things like that that allow us to develop and live life. But I thought that was kind of interesting, because I'm like, who knows, like UFOs in general, they could be like time travelers, dimension.
I mean, they kind of
travel.
have to, because you have to travel, so like at the speeds that they go, you're traveling at least at the speed of light, if not more.
Right.
So they have to be traveling through time somehow. And I still don't understand how time works.
Doesn't work.
Yeah, like
time is a made up illusion.
How we can look through a telescope and look at the Big Bang. It doesn't make sense.
Have you guys seen I know too much about time. The thing about time where it's all happening at the same time.
No, just tell me. Like Lexi, you just do this stuff all the time where you like get a notion in your head and you just start looking stuff up about it, and it just anxiety it stresses me out. Okay, yeah.
So really fast breakdown is essentially like right now, the moment that we're in. Think about we're on like a CD, right? And in that CD, like where like the point is, right? But then in that same spot, there's still other lines, if you get what I'm saying. So essentially what it's saying is that all of time is happening at the same time. We're just at this point in time. Does that make sense?
So we're like in our present time, but
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that does make sense.
I mean, it's like a CD. It goes around like that, but all the other timelines are happening at the same time.
So then what happens when you die?
I don't know.
But that would make sense when it comes to like
Lexi, you don't know.
What happens when you die? I'm very much still living.
Yeah.
No clue.
I think of it kind of like
it's
and
like
this might be more hauntings. Well, like this might kind of connect to that, because it's either like dimensional or time, but I think of it kind of like, when you take a piece of paper and you make like a fan, for instance, or think of those little worm things that I used to make when we lived in Missouri, where you just like fold, and if it's scrunched up, like that's like time, like, oh, it happens in a blink. Life happens in a blink. But when you're living it, it's like it's stretched out, where it seems longer, but it's really this tight little thing. Does that make sense, or am I kind of going off on a tangent?
I mean, I get what you're saying, but I'm feeling more like you run into residual hauntings a lot of places. Some people don't even realize it. Like when a spirit passes through them, or they get like a smell, or they have like a repetitive haunting and they're trying to communicate, but it's not intelligible. So that's what's considered a residual haunting.
Which
the energy is left over. Yeah, the energy is left over, and that's why you're seeing it. That's why you're feeling it, or whatever. So if we're on the CD and we're here, but then in this area, 200 years ago, some colonial family was traveling the Oregon Trail, then it's like we run into their timeline.
Yeah. And that kind of makes sense with the little fan, right?
Yeah. And there's also this, so side note, just to touch on the same thing. This thing, recent studies that there are other Earths, like you said, and that means that there are other versions of ourselves. So that there's versions of ourselves that are doing exactly what we're doing right now, and there's other ones that are doing what we're doing and then like goes to the bathroom. So like there's so many different versions of ourselves, because Earth is like different Earths are real.
Like us individually, or like different?
No, like you personally.
Yuck.
That's
I've
like
thought of that too.
The mirror realm. the mirror realm. I don't know why I feel like I'm not
Battle
saying
stars.
right.
Multiverse.
But like the
Yes.
mirror realm, why do so many people get like icky vibes when they're when they're looking at their reflection in the mirror? Like,
Well, I'll tell you a thing or two about
Yeah.
that.
yeah, but it's like you get like a weird vibe, and sometimes if you're looking at your reflection, it might not always do exactly what you're doing in the same like moment, you know? Like it might be like laggy or delayed. Or you might be looking and then you turn around and then you look back and she's like never turned her head. Or he or whatever. Yeah. I mean that's stuff that people have
Witnessed or experienced.
witness, yeah. And that's the mirror realm where there through the mirror is a whole other universe that is essentially your life but lived in a different way.
Creeptown 3000. And I've thought about that too, like certain choices that we make in our life. Like who's to say there's not like 1,000 other versions of that happening where we do a different situation, or we, you go a different path, you're living a different life, and you're like all of that to lead up as like a sandwich to, okay, like no more, this is such a tangent, my God, but no more like karmic debt because you've gone through all these different scenarios and you've worked through all like the right ones and all the bad ones, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's freaky. It's so unknown. It makes me curious. Like I want to know, but I also don't know if I want to be reached out, abducted.
I just want to be a guardian of the galaxy.
But what makes you think that they're gonna pick you, a human, to be a part of their, just because they did it in Marvel?
Who knows? Maybe
so much more
maybe they're
advanced.
collecting a team of every species.
Mm-hmm.
Because
really cool
because
you
if there's
got
a
to, like, work
multiverse
there.
war, to not have the entire galaxy extinct, they're gonna need every version of every living creature in the galaxy.
Like Noah's Ark, but space. Okay.
Yeah.
I see it.
Write it down. Movie idea. Just kidding.
Yeah.
In like 2 years, Marvel comes out with this fucking movie,
This
and we're
thought.
like, wait
For
a
real.
second. Copyright
No.
TM.
Well, I mean, they're
Yeah.
going into the multiverse battle. It's kind of where I got my idea from.
Wow. So you
True.
copywrote.
No, I just
Copyrighted? Copywrote?
I didn't write anything.
So H.G. Wells is the one who like came up with this theory. Now he actually made the he wrote the book The Time Machine, which I thought was cool because that movie like when they made it into a movie, I think in like the early 1900s, like 1940s or something, and then they redid it in like the 2000s. That movie, I was like, ugh, the Time Machine movie. Anyway, I thought that was interesting, especially if we're in like a multi-dimensional world, galaxy, universe, whatever. The thought of time travel makes sense to me. If you have the ability to understand or harness that part, then you should be able to go into it. I don't know.
Now, in this version, like, do you guys believe in the butterfly effect?
Oh, I was just talking about this with my daughter yesterday.
Like that's what freaks me out, is like if you could change one thing, but then it affects all these other things in life in general.
Well, if the multiverse is real, the butterfly effect would play into place because every option goes into a different reality if there's different versions of yourselves.
So many realities.
Because It's like, like in that one movie about time, that's one of Josh and I's favorite movies, where he like goes back and he changes one insignificant thing at the time, and he goes back to his present time, and his child is no longer his daughter, his sweet little daughter, it's a little boy, and he's like, oh no, like changing one little thing in the past can like severely alter the future. I could see that.
Have you guys seen Interstellar?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Josh loved that movie too, and
I love it.
it tripped me the freak out. I was like,
When they were in that planet, and it was like, I don't even remember how many years went by, and they were only there for like an hour or two.
it was,
Yeah.
they thought it was only like a 7-year difference or something like that. But when they got back to their ship, it had been like 20 something years.
Mm-hmm.
And the man who was like left up on the ship to kind of like hold the
Was
fort down
old.
had aged 20 years or something. And it was like, holy shit. Could you imagine just sitting there for 20 fucking years while you're
That's what I just thought of. Like, why would, like, do you stay? Do you have enough rations to make it 20 years if they thought it was going to be 7 years?
Initially, they set them up to never come back, and they didn't know that. So he was set.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So back into my part. Sorry, tangent. So fast forward to 1912. Famed occultist Aleister Crowley, best known for being, quote, the most wickedest man in the world. First of all, check your grammar. No, I'm just kidding. He basically, like the late 1800s, early 1900s, he was very much like very, very into the occult, very into and open about ritualistic magic, stuff like that. But it was like some dark stuff. He was a magician. He was a novelist. He did poetry, paintings. He climbed mountains. He was just an interesting person. But nowadays, like the Christians kind of relate. I don't want to say the Christians, but like he's related to like Satanism and things like that because he was working with some interesting stuff. Anyway, he apparently met a gray alien named Lamb during a ritual called, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but Amalantra workings, which he believed opened the possibility for humans to connect interdimensionally and to extraterrestrial beings. Now, Aleister Crowley, rightfully so, was very controversial, but also kind of interesting. So I think that it would be cool to do an episode just kind of like about him and about spiritualists and occultists in general, especially from, like the early 1900s. I think that would be fun. But back to aliens, he was the first recorded he had the first recorded visitation with Lamb. But after him, many occultists and UFOologists have also interacted with him as well. One UFOologist actually described Lamb as being, quote, cold, computer-like intelligence beyond any human comprehension, which I'm like, okay, so what do we say about, aliens in general is that they are way more advanced than us humans, so that kind of makes sense. I mean, that's like a no-brainer.
I wonder if, like, the aliens sent a robot. They're like, oh my gosh, we're getting a message from this crazy dude from Earth. Let's just send a robot.
Could be. And even like just to kind of like look into what his like quote ritual to kind of like have this happen, this communication happen, like say like you're meditating and like in that like hypnotic state, if if another being like so far away, if you're like that into it and they just happen to be, more like in tune, and then they're like, hey, this person or this, I want to talk to this, you know.
So it's kind of like he was meditating or astral projecting.
I'm not exactly sure. I didn't look into the workings of this particular ritual, but that's just kind of like how I was relating it to how like if you're in a deep meditative state, how you can kind of either astral project or, you know, connect with other things or other beings. That's kind of like what I was thinking. But yeah, I mean, the creature definitely had like above human comprehension. Like, no shit, Sherlock. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, doesn't take an alien to get that.
Doesn't take a UFOologist to think that.
Exactly. I was like, okay. Now, as far as the Greys go and abductions, I'm going to be talking about one of the most famous abduction stories, and that involves both Betty and Barney Hill. Side note, I really love these two names because Kayla and I had dogs growing up who were named Betty and Barney. So I was already like, oh, you know, cute little doggies. Anyway, Betty and Barney Hill lived in New Hampshire, and Barney actually worked as a United States postal worker. He was a local board member of the United States Commission on Civil Rights, and Betty worked as a social worker, and together they were an interracial couple, which was extremely rare for the time, and were members of the NAACP and very active in their Unitarian Christian church. So they both were kind of, as you would say, like pillars of the community, very good, you know, well-rounded people. Now, that's just a little bit of a background on the pair. Now, for their abduction, it began during a trip home from a vacation as they were driving through rural.
Rural.
Yeah, that's a hard word to say with my weird chain of accents I have. Rural in the countryside of New Hampshire in 1961. Now, the couple and their dog Delzy had witnessed a bright light in the sky that Betty at first thought at first thought she thought at first that it was a fallen star. So they pulled over on the side of the road to get a better look and allow their dog to go have a little potty break. Now, both Betty and Barney took turns looking at this bright ball of light in the sky through their pair of binoculars. The object was reportedly an odd-shaped saucer with multiple colored lights on its surface, and it was spinning. At first, Barney thought it was a commercial airplane, like, you know, logical thinker. Oh, it's just an airplane. Like, what are we freaking out about? But he quickly realized it was not a common airplane. The craft shifted in the sky and looked at it as if it was coming closer to their location. Quickly heading back to the car, the couple headed down the road towards the rural mountainous path that they were driving home on. They both then watched as the UFO craft quickly flew towards them and hovered above their car, about 80 to 100 feet above them, but still about, 500 feet in front of them. So if you can imagine, like, their car's driving here and it's like up in the distance, but still, like, close to them. Too close for comfort, in my opinion. At this point, in my opinion,
Too close for comfort, in my opinion.
Yeah. In my fear of UFOs, that's a little too close for comfort. Anyway, at this point, Barney and Betty had stopped their car in the middle of the highway, most likely out of fear, shock, amazement, curiosity, all of that stuff. Can you freaking imagine? So Barney stepped out of the car and began to walk towards the craft. And when he did so, he saw around, now some sources said 8 to 11, so I'm going to settle on 10. Saw about 10 humanoid creatures staring back at him through the saucer's windows. Barney recalled having a telepathic type of message that said, "Stay where you are and keep looking." And at this point, the craft is getting closer. It's still about 80 feet above them, but now it's like 300 feet away. So it's like coming closer, right? And this caused Barney to frantically run back to Betty, their pup, and their vehicle,
They never
claiming,
listen.
what?
No
Oh,
one
I
ever
know.
listens. Stay where you are.
Stay where you
Everything's
are.
fine. Okay, I heard you say stay where I am. I'm gonna run.
Right. But I'm going to take off. Hey, I would.
Yeah, not like I would be any braver, but come on, Barney.
I know. So he gets back to his wife, dog, and car, and he, starts saying, "They're going to capture us." Quote, "They are going to capture us." Driving away with a swiftness, Betty kept a lookout while Barney drove. When suddenly their car was vibrating and an electric tingling feeling that they both experienced within like their bodies, like they one source says like into their souls, like that tingly feeling and that tingly feeling. So they had both experienced this, and they had almost like a dullness consciously, and they had heard like a series of buzzing sounds, beeping sounds before awakening, fully alert, and realizing that they had driven nearly 35 miles. Once home, they both recalled that their watches had stopped ticking. Their memory of the event had become really hazy and fragmented, that their shoes that once, they were like their dressy, classy shoes from vacation were very scuffed. The leather strap to their binoculars was torn. Like this poor couple had been through it, y'all. Um, Betty later recalled how her dress was completely destroyed, torn, without like unable to be fixed, basically, and that both of their clothes had a pink hued powder on them. Now, their Chevy 1957 Bel Air had very odd circular shiny spots on the trunk. Now, both Barney and Betty, once, kind of calming down in the next, couple of days, they conducted a series of little experiments. One of which was a compass experiment. Now they took, like an average ordinary compass to their car, to the trunk, and they would kind of, move it towards these odd anomalies that appeared on their trunk, and they witnessed the compass needle spinning erratically. And now when they would move it to another part of the car, it would get normal, move it closer, it would start spinning, like that kind of little experiment. Now, at this point, once they both are like, this really happened to us, this is terrifying, they contacted the United States Air Force. And at first, they were like a little bit hesitant to discuss everything because they didn't want to seem too eccentric or crazy or anything like that. Now, they were thoroughly interviewed, and their interview was actually forwarded on to Project Blue Book, which is the Air Force's UFO research group. Now, the couple also contacted the NICAP, which is the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. And over the years, many thorough interviews and tests have been conducted on the couple, their car, and their clothing. I think that her dress in general, she had originally thrown it away. She like didn't want anything to do with it. She retrieved it from the trash and was like, maybe I need this. And she like stored it in a garment bag in her closet. And good thing, because like over, you know, the next 20 years, they were doing like thorough testing on it. Now, by 1964, the couple underwent a series of hypnotherapy sessions to try and recall the memory blocks that they had, try to kind of piece together what the hell happened to them. Now, this is like a very, very short synopsis of what they experienced. Betty herself was having extremely vivid dreams. I'm not going to cover that so much. I'm just going to kind of focus on their hypnosis and like the broad walkthrough of what came out of those, basically. So they both, while under hypnosis, recalled being taken aboard the aircraft and having various tests done on them. Think a extremely invasive physical. Now, they both spoke about the aliens' eyes. Barney in particular just kept, you know, during his like first hypnosis session was just talking about their eyes. And he said like the eyes necessarily weren't attached to a body, but they like came closer to him and like laid on his own eyes.
That's so cool.
Lexi, you're freaking crazy.
It's like their eyes are like an attached, like another limb. That's so sick.
And he said that, well, they both said that they were hypnotic and almost calming. And they were receiving like a lot of telepathic messages like remain calm, like we're not here to hurt you. We just want to know more, kind of thing.
Did they communicate back telepathically, or did they have to speak?
I'm not sure. I know Betty had mentioned that the Greys had spoken English to her and to each other, but Barney was like, oh no, they spoke in some strange mumbled language that I couldn't understand. But when they like spoke to him directly, it was like that. Now, one of the things that he did say was he remembered, I'm not going to get into too much detail, but that he assumed that they most likely took a sperm sample, which I thought was interesting. You know,
the multiverse battle.
Kind of goes through like, you know, studies, procreate, like who even knows?
Do you think they cut him open and took it, or like they made him?
So he said,
you know,
he said, I'll get into it now. So he said basically that they put some sort of like a cup over his privates, that he specifically said that he did not orgasm, but he believes that they took a sperm sample from him. So I was like, oh, but they did all sorts of things like looking into their ears, looking in their mouths, their eyes, all of that kind of thing. Going around their other orifices and things like that. Much more detail online, but I'm going to just...
Would they like cut them open and look at their organs? Well, that's good.
Yeah.
What if their technology was so advanced they just like were able to scan them?
Exactly. Like they didn't even need to. It was just like a quick and easy little thing.
Like a little physical.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking like, think of it as like a very invasive physical. Like
a sperm sample?
Yes, like you're not...
That's intense.
He wasn't harmed though.
Yeah. They didn't like cut his, you know,
balls
like to get those, you know.
Super gross to get it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool.
Now, one of Betty's hypnosis sessions, she recalled a memory of seeing a star map that actually one of the extraterrestrials, the Greys, showed her. Now, it was a map of the stars that basically had either solid lines like connecting different stars or dashed lines. Now, the solid lines showed like their trade routes, and the dashed lines were like less traveled to stars. Now, this is 1961 that this abduction happened and occurred, right? Excuse me. Now, her star map has been proven to be accurate. It apparently matches a star system known as the Zeta Reculum system. And what are the grays called? Zeta Reculans. So it's kind of cool.
That is so
Probably
cool.
branched off from that star map thing, but still interesting. Now, there's no way that Betty could have known this, although further data and research presently has shown some flaws in this particular map. The question remains, did this truly happen? Did she really, did they both interact with an alien species? Were they abducted? All of this stuff. It's pretty crazy.
I say yes.
I know,
I say
right?
it happened. That's for sure.
100%. Or they were on some really good drugs.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, they could have happened, or they had some fun on vacation, Because not to mention, they were two very, average, good people, lived, normal lives, and they both experienced this. Now, I know, like, there's all sorts of tales and sightings, especially when you're in a car, especially when you're driving at night, especially in a rural or country area where there's not a lot of population, there's not a big population of people or communities or things like that, where it's definitely, you hear more stories like that. So I totally, I could see this happening. Absolutely.
I think what's so cool about Betty and what's his name?
Barney.
Is that they were like encountering a very smart intelligence.
Yeah.
Like that is so crazy.
Yeah, and they didn't get hurt at all. They were just
Yeah.
looked at and talked to, and they were calmed down the whole time. That's like the perfect case scenario. I wouldn't mind being like, I'm a full-blown organ donor. Like, take everything. Donate me to science. I don't care what you do with my body after I die. So I'm totally down for them to like check my ears out, my teeth, my organs, whatever. Just don't hurt me. I just don't want to feel the pain.
Yes. And now her dreams, I already had so much for myself as far as
I don't have as much as you.
So I didn't want to get into the dreams, but her dreams were really interesting. And now their hypnotherapist, I should say, didn't doubt that they believed that this happened, but he was like, I don't know, Betty was having some pretty crazy dreams that she told Barney about. So Barney must have subconsciously thought, oh, yes, this happened to me. And so during hypnosis, all these memories started coming out. And it was like, oh, okay, just agree that this happened to these people,
Yeah,
like,
but
don't try to toss it up.
Especially in the 60s, there was no way that anyone was to be on their side. That's it.
But for their interviews and their, findings to be submitted to the Project Blue Book, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to talk a little bit about Project Blue Book too.
Oh, very good. Well, let's get on into it.
Yeah, let's do it. Yes. So what I'm going to talk about is a little bit of UFO sightings and a little bit of NASA. NASA, we're calling you out. Although I do appreciate that they have come forward with a lot of the UFO stuff that people have claimed to have seen. And then like a couple years ago, they were like, yeah, okay.
No,
we don't know what they are.
During the pandemic, they dropped and admitted to it while everything was happening. And it's like,
but there's some cool stuff happening with NASA right now. So let me just get into it.
Okay, get into it.
So UFO sightings. So between 1947 and 1969, which is the height of the Cold War, more than 12,000 12,000 UFO sightings were reported to Project Blue Book. Project Blue Book, which is the Air Force, the team over unidentified flying objects or UAPs, UFOs, UAPs, aerial phenomenons. It's the Air Force program that investigates these. So more than 12,000 UFO sightings during that time. And the basic mission of Project Blue Book is to scientifically investigate all of the instances and determine whether any posed a national security threat. Now, the way I look at it is if the government is involved at all, it's real. Like,
Right.
why would you have a whole team like created to investigate these crazy things if they're not real? I just
Like,
don't think that that's
like on
happening.
one hand, I could see like, oh, let's if somebody saw, oh, I see this airplane that looks like it could be from another country or something like that. I could understand that, but the fact that they're reporting alien sightings or UFO sightings, I think that's a little,
It's just like, okay, all right.
Exactly.
But currently, I just want to jump in here. NASA has a team, and they're there's this team of 16 researchers, and they will spend the next 9 months studying unidentified aerial phenomena, also known as UFOs or UAPs, and they're a part of a team of NASA. Okay. So the research, which will be unclassified data, will lead to a report that will be made available to the public next year. But this is happening right now. Like, they announced it a couple months ago, and now the team is like getting together. And
why haven't we heard about it?
you can go to NASA's website, and they have all the information. That's where I got all this information, was from NASA. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, so NASA's research follows the Pentagon's announcement in July that it would create an office to track reports of UAPs. And earlier this year, Congress had held a public hearing on UFOs for the first time in 50 years. Pretty crazy. But the selected research group includes professors, scientists, oceanographers, and others who study space. So former NASA astronaut Scott Kelly and Nadia Drake, a scientist journalist, and a contributing writer to the National Geographic, are all also among the group's members. Just interesting. Which, I don't know if it's true, but I saw like a TikTok forever ago that was like NASA used to study the ocean, and then they
Yes.
saw something and were freaked out and decided to change to study space to try to get us off of Earth. So it's interesting that they have an oceanographer.
I was
on their
literally just
team.
about to say that.
Yeah, I was like, once I saw that, I was like, oh, really? How about that? What the hell is in
What
the
if
ocean?
outer space is just water?
What?
What if it's just water?
In space?
Yeah,
I don't know. Could be.
because we can't breathe in water.
Well, I'm like, did they discover Atlantis and the Atlanteans were like, get the heck out of here?
I don't know.
Or like a gang of octopi.
I don't know.
Or
You
a
have
crew
a really
of
weird thing about
megalodons.
octopi. You said that earlier, like octopus. Like, tell me that's not an alien.
Tell me it's not.
Yeah.
Yep.
It can change color. They can communicate to each other.
They look like an alien.
They have
They're
multiple
alien
brains and
looking.
multiple hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
Mhm.
can easily like attack a human in a smart way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very interesting and very convenient that now not only does the Air Force have Project Blue Book, but now NASA has their own team. But I do think it's cool that they're going to come public with their findings at the end of next year.
What other things are going to stay classified?
Exactly. Like, what are they going to tell us? Who knows? But I think
There's
it's
a
very
fly.
interesting.
Sorry.
It's okay. So I wanted to talk about a few sightings of UFO sightings. Okay. So New Mexico. Let me just paint this picture for you. December 1948, New Mexico. Okay. witnesses, multiple, report seeing green balls of fire in the skies around the Los Alamos and the Sandia atomic weapons laboratories and other highly sensitive military installations. In one instance, the fireball raced head on toward a plane, forcing the pilot to swerve. Now, when they studied it, okay, Project motherfucking Blue Book studied it, and they came up with, it must have been, they still don't know what it is, but they said, oh, don't worry, guys, it must have just been a Soviet spy device.
Okay.
Like that's gonna make me feel any better, or a nuclear fallout debris, or just an alternate form of lightning.
Oh.
Yeah, like, okay, that's obviously the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard. I don't know. I don't believe shit.
I
I don't
know.
believe shit these people say. And I'm gonna paint another picture for you. Roswell, New Mexico. Summer of 1947. Now, this is America's most famous UFO incident. After U.S. Army forces shockingly announced that they'd recover remnants of a flying disc from a New Mexico ranch, officials quickly backtracked, claiming the debris actually came from a downed weather balloon. They always say that too. Because for like years, NASA has been gaslighting the world, saying it's just a weather balloon. And then in the middle of COVID, they're like, okay, it wasn't. They're all UFOs. We don't know what they are. How, like, the audacity, the PTSD I have from NASA.
And they say, like, you know, if you watch one of those science fiction movies or just like opinion in general, the public will not be able to handle it.
Yeah.
There will be chaos. There will be rioting. How about you stop lying and making assumptions? How about you stop gaslighting us?
Yeah, literally.
But I mean, like, what if they don't know? So, like,
well, let me get
so
into
they're like, I don't
last of this
know,
little
instead of being
story.
like, oh, it's this, so that the population doesn't riot. Because if you don't know, like, oh.
Well, after they said it was a weather balloon, decades later, the Air Force admitted that they'd concocted that story to cover the fact that the wreckage came from an aerial spy device. Conspiracy theories endure that the captured aliens and government cover-ups. So they came out later saying like, oh, sorry, we fucked up. It was actually it was a spy device. We just didn't want to scare you. But I don't find that to be true either. I mean, at this point, I don't trust anything.
They said that about the green flames or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That just sounds phony.
Yeah. Hang on. Now my phone's not working.
Interesting.
Yeah.
FBI agent, knock it off.
Literally. June 1947. Mount Rainier, Washington. I don't know how to say it, but that sounds good. So this is the birth of the flying saucer. Okay? All right. So civilian pilot Kenneth Arnold reported seeing 9 glowing objects flying in a V formation over Mount Rainier at an estimated speed of 1700 miles per hour. He compared,
17.
Yeah, 17 miles per hour. Just hanging out. 1700 miles per hour. He compared their motion to a saucer, like a literal cup, like a mug saucer, flipped upside down, skipping like a rock, like you would skip on the water.
That's so cool.
Oh.
That's what he compared it to. So the news reports translated as the shape of the craft themselves, and that's where you get a flying saucer from. Is from his description of it. So Air Force investigators, Project Blue Book, deemed Arnold a credible witness, but concluded what he had seen was a mirage. Now, yeah, he's a credible witness, guys. Don't come after him. Okay, we like Arnold, but I'm just telling you right now, that one was full of shit. Like, that's such bullshit. And this guy, Kenneth Arnold, spent years like having a mental breakdown. Not really. I mean, I'm sure he was fine, but he like seriously went over everything that happened that night again and again and again. And for a long time, I mean, this shit consumed him. So they're like, he's a credible witness, but you just saw a mirage. Sorry.
Well, and it's like the perfect thing to be like, oh, if his one person's, soul or mind or anything will sacrifice that one person for the greater good, like
yeah,
the greater
good. Yeah.
Greater good.
quote.
But
unquote.
that's just some interesting things. I think that we still don't know half of anything that has happened. Like, I believe what I saw could have been an alien. I didn't report it to no Project Blue Book. Bastards. Lying through their teeth. So I'm sure that and I've talked to a lot of people that also have claimed that they may have seen something unidentified for sure. They don't know what it was. But I'm sure there's a lot more stories out there in the world of unidentifiable things happening. But don't go to the government because they're going to lie and call you crazy.
Yep.
Well, just kidding. Go to the government, whatever.
Yeah. Going, the only like time that I for sure was like, okay, that was definitely a UFO was an orange ball of light in the sky, night sky. And it was steady moving and getting like bigger and smaller too, to the point like it was chilling in my like skyline long enough for me to go grab like multiple family members to show them and be like, what the heck is that? What the heck,
Yeah.
But I didn't call the government because they probably would have been like, it was this,
You need to get your glasses checked.
Exactly.
You're fine. While taking samples of all the dirt in the area for the next 2 months.
Yes, buying the property to do further research.
Exactly.
Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah. But you know what? We'll figure it out eventually, or we won't. I mean, whatever. The government's not going to tell us everything, but I think it's interesting. People have had a lot of really cool encounters, and maybe I'll be like, okay, I'll hitch a ride with Lexi if they come and pick her up, but I want to be brought back.
No promises.
I got to pay rent. Like, I'm in a lease. But yeah, so
I'll just be like, goodbye.
Dinah. Goodbye.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, how do you communicate with aliens? We just don't.
Oh.
There you go.
So, that's it. No, it realistically would be what is called quantum communication. So, it uses quantum features of light to send messages.
Interesting.
And it's like the best way to be able to send messages from one star system to another. But let's say they land in your backyard. How do we communicate there? We don't. I'm just kidding.
You tie yourself to the ship and tell them they have to hear you.
Hey, tiger's thumb. Hey.
Yeah.
Let me go pack my bag really fast.
Like, we don't have time. It's okay. I don't need anything.
I already have a go bag. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm ready to go.
2 seconds. So this astrophysicist, his name is Avi Loeb. He wrote the book Extraterrestrials: The First Signs of Intelligent Life Beyond Earth.
Oh.
Okay. So he says, or his theory or his thought is that the possibility of being able to communicate with aliens if they land could be like none.
Really?
Yeah. So reason for that being is because they could be so intelligent that there's too much of a gap between our intelligence and theirs, like the way that they communicate. And if an alien were to come to Earth, there would be a giant technology gap between the two of us. So some say that you might need like an AI to be able to communicate with an alien. because they're just like
Interesting.
that much more advanced with their knowledge. And if they were to like send a ship, there it's a possibility that it would be an AI to be able to like withstand that long commute, because like a bunch of years.
Jeez, so it might not even be an alien life form. It would be an alien AI.
Yeah, like the little smart AI that they made.
Mm-hmm.
If they can't like
Interesting.
communicate with you.
Mm-hmm.
But another way to kind of try to get communication with an alien, if you are in their presence for whatever reason, would be to almost take it back to like teaching a kid how to communicate. And like kind of trying to build that correlation to them, but that's also assuming that they have the same type of way of thinking as we do.
Right,
which
like
we
that
have,
teaching mechanism.
well,
that
we have like no real idea if they do or not. So communicating with them is like hit or miss, essentially.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Maybe that is why they just go telepathic. Because they're like, humans, shut up. I'm just going to tell you what
But what
I'm
if they're
thinking.
not that advanced? Like
All of
they're,
them.
you know what I mean? Like not all of them have that.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically
They
it.
just like stare at each other.
Yeah, like hey.
Hello. But what if they don't in their
Yeah, what if
What if
you
they don't have
wave
eyeball-
and they think it's like a disrespect?
insult?
And
Yeah.
they're like, da, 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 da. And you're like,
Yeah.
ah!
Like you did.
Yeah, you can't do anything.
Mm-mm.
That's scary.
The Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, they talk about like getting a group of like-minded individuals and going in nature somewhere kind of like off the beaten path or away from a lot of city noise, and like getting into a circle and doing almost like a meditative thing and like inviting them to come down and stuff. And they've like actually caught like visual and audio evidence of like synchronized lights in the skies, or of like portals opening in the skies and lights coming out of them, even like still photographs of like light anomalies or like almost like apparition type beings like around the people in their circle and stuff. So they like open it up almost like ritual, which is kind of like what I was thinking about Crowley's method.
Yeah.
But
It's interesting though, because then if you go to like, you watch like the Dead Files, like Amy Allen or Josh, your husband, for example, last week's episode, when she encounters something that she knows is a gray and they like abducted the homeowners or the children, there's nothing she can do. So she's like, I'm out. Like, bye. Yeah. There's nothing I can do. Sorry, they're just gonna keep abducting you, or they're gonna
and they're like,
alone.
So if we move, nope, they're
gonna follow you.
They know where you are. Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
And then like Josh, for example, opened the doors and sees the grays, and then like shuts it and is like, I don't know what to do. And that's what scares me, is like they are unknown, so you don't know how to work, like communicate with them or what the fuck to do.
Mm-hmm. They are alien to us.
That indeed they are.
Mm-hmm.
Still love them though.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. Like I definitely would want to communicate with one before I die.
Are you serious?
Not like within that like a small period. I communicate with them and then I die. But
you communicate with them and then they murder you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Like the perfect snack.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it would be cool. I mean, I saw something that was so unexplainable. My little creature running and then disappearing in front of me. I mean, like, it's so unexplainable. I would want to know what the heck it was. So if I were to meet an alien, then I would be like, read my mind and look at this memory and tell me what it was. And if they're like I don't know, dude, like, bye, then I don't know.
And that's where like I differ from you both, because I'm like, I don't I don't want to. Like, I don't mind like doing like a ghost hunting sesh or like a medium style reading where you're talking with like the dead or like any sort of spiritual being. Aliens in general, I mean, I'll say it once, I'll say it again. They scare me. They make me nervous.
Yeah.
See, I feel like that, like doing a investigation and stuff like that is more scarier because at least an alien, you can see it. Like, you understand what it's doing. You understand, like, movement patterns. But, like, something that you can't see, but you can feel is scarier to me. Because
I
that's
don't know,
really
but
unknown because you have no
there's-
idea what it is. Because it could lie like, oh, I'm your grandma, but then it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like what I saw when it was running and then it disappeared, like they can disappear. If that was an alien, then it can disappear. It could be watching you right now.
That'd be
and
so
you
cool.
wouldn't know.
What if we're like best friends?
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Gives me like an interstellar phone we could chit chat on.
Yeah. No, they're like in your subconscious. They're like your inner voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof. But yeah,
Hey.
we just don't know a lot about aliens. But what we do know, we know.
In
You
spirit
know?
guides, like shout back to our spirit guide episode, the star beings, those are aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lexi, I definitely think you have star beings.
Yeah.
No, no way.
Nah, not at all. Not at all.
Thank you, Twisted listeners, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed our little chat about aliens.
Yes. And if you guys have any alien stories, any experiences, or any twisted tales that you want to let us know about, definitely do so. You can go to our YouTube if you're not watching this on YouTube. It is 3 Twisted Sisters Podcast. Comment below on our video. You can like, subscribe, and message us on Instagram and TikTok at _3 Twisted Sisters. Or you can send us an email to 3 Twisted Sisters Podcast at gmail.com. We want to hear your stories, so definitely let us know.
Yes, and we hope that you guys have a wonderful weekend and you have a great, hopefully stress-free holiday season if you celebrate them. Other than that, we hope you take care and stay
Stay
twisted.
Bye.
Bye.